It's the Martin and Dean Chronicles. Ready for laughs and cheers? One's a geezer, one's a queer. Find out who on the Martin and Dean Chronicles. Tune in, don't delay. Martin and Dean will make your day. Prologue. The Martin and Dean Chronicles. Hello there and welcome. I shall be your ever-so-friendly narrator throughout this audio journey, unless you fuck me off. Why is it an audio adventure, I hear you ask? Because fuck me, we couldn't afford an animator, so join me along the way. Welcome to the Martin and Dean Chronicles. Our tale starts off very simple, but as we go along, then bang! The universe of this tale will explode in ways you can't imagine. Let's get into it, starting off by introducing you to our two main guys. One is a geezer and one is a queer. Dean is the top geezer bloke, always having a laugh and bantering. He is married to Martin, but he ain't gay, he loves the ladies, or that's what he tells us. Martin is Dean's husband. He is a tall, lanky poofter. He looks after Dean. Quite frankly, he's a good egg. Our tale starts on a cold winter's day in their flat, which is located in a small village called Wooton, just like any other village. It is an old, boring and dull place, and so this is where our story starts. Part 1. The adventures begin. Chapter 1. Tiger bread and interesting house guests. Dean sat sprawled on the couch, one sock dangling half off his foot, staring longingly at the TV, but clearly not watching it. He turned his head towards Martin, who was busy organising some books on a shelf.
Oh, Martin, my dear, I'm feeling awfully peckish for some tiger bread. Can you pop to the co-op for me?
His tone laced with dramatic flair.
Oh, and get me some whiskey, too.
Martin, ever the dutiful husband, looked over.
Oh, okay, Dean. Anything else? Maybe a cheeky chocolate bar, my love?
Dean paused, dramatically weighing the decision.
Nah. Just the bread and whiskey, Martin. Actually, you know what? Maybe take your time and see if there is anything good for dinner.
Martin nodded with an exaggerated sense of duty.
All right, tiger bread, whiskey, and I'll see what's there for dinner. Got it.
Cheers, Martin. Oh, and do take your time.
Dean added, waving him off as though granting him royal permission to leave. Martin slipped on his coat, wrapping his scarf with precision.
No problem, Dean. Be back soon.
Dean waved lazily.
Yeah, see you soon.
Martin hesitated at the door.
Dean, you sure there isn't anything else?
Dean's cheerful demeanour shifted.
Nope, for fuck's sake, that's all. Now get fucking going or I'll starve to death, you silly poof.
Oh, okay, Dean. Be back in a jiffy.
Martin chirped, heading out. As soon as the door clicked shut, Martin started shuffling his lanky frame down to the local co-op. Dean's face lit up with mischief. He reached for his phone and dialed with the enthusiasm of a teenager planning a house party.
Come on over, ladies. The coast is clear. Time to party.
Cheeky devil, isn't he? Dean leapt into action, surveying the absolute chaos of the living room. Underwear on the lampshade, copies of Razzle magazines with hardened tissues next to it, pizza boxes stacked like Jenga, and an empty whiskey bottle precariously balanced on the armrest.
Oh, fuck me. Look at this place. Should have made Martin clean up first.
In a flurry of activity, he shoved everything into the nearest cupboard, slamming it shut with a triumphant,
Fuck it. Martin can clean that up later. He'll probably prance about like a little housemaid as he does later on anyway.
Dean then, lighting some candles for ambience, he spritzed himself with cologne. Dean's got to freshen up those balls. Dean checked his reflection in the mirror. Looking well pucker, he declares to himself. He flashes himself a cheeky grin. The doorbell rang, and Dean flung the door open to a group of giggling women.
Why, hello there, ladies.
Dean welcomes the ladies in, one by one, and has a cheeky squeeze of their bums. While Dean was entertaining his ladies, Martin was going to end up having a more eventful trip to the co-op than he would have anticipated. He was almost at the co-op when he spotted Nathan sitting on the bench near the park, his hoodie pulled over his head like a cloak of mischief. Martin recognized him immediately. Nathan had a reputation in the neighborhood for always being just a bit too eager to ask for things. As Martin walked by, Nathan sprang to life like a cat spotting its prey.
Oi, Martin, my man.
Nathan shouted, waving his arms like they were about to take off.
I need a word.
Martin paused, looking around.
Nathan, what now?
Nathan shuffled over, his shoes barely staying on his feet.
Look, I'm in a bit of a situation.
He lowered his voice, glancing around dramatically.
I need some weed money.
Martin raised an eyebrow.
Seriously, Nathan? How many times have we had this conversation?
Nathan shrugged.
Well, it's the way of the world, innit? Gotta hustle. But this time it's real important. It's urgent. I've been talking to Will. You know, the guy with the weird crappy car? He's got a premium batch coming in, but I need the cash today.
Martin's stomach turned. He'd known Nathan for years, and this was nothing new. Nathan was always trying to wrangle money for something, anything really, and he had an uncanny ability to convince people to give him just a little more than they should. But this time felt different.
Look, Nathan, I'm on a mission. Dean wants tiger bread, and I don't have time to...
Just then, a loud clang echoed through the street. Martin turned to see an elderly woman with a shopping cart full of cans zoom past, narrowly missing a lamppost. Nathan spun around, wide-eyed.
Did you see that? That was incredible! We gotta get in on that action!
Nathan ran off towards the elderly woman. Martin shook his head, his mission to retrieve the tiger bread already spiralling out of control. With a resigned sigh, he walked on, leaving Nathan to chase the elderly woman who, much to Martin's surprise, was now weaving between traffic like a seasoned professional. Martin got to the co-op and started to shop. Back at the flat, the party was in full swing when Martin returned, bag in hand, and paused at the door. The noise from the living room was unmistakable. He walked in puzzled to find Dean surrounded by women.
Oh, who are all these women then, Dean?
Oh, these women, they are my sisters.
Oh, I didn't know your sisters were in town, Dean.
Yeah, they just flew in, all 12 of them.
All 12 of them. You sure these are your sisters?
Ha ha ha, of course I am, you silly boy, just a very big family.
I'll sort you all out some snacks.
Martin buys it, without a second thought. Then heads to the kitchen. Dean thinks to himself, he can't believe he got away with that. Laughter started to echo in the room.
Well, that was a close one. Silly poof, didn't expect a darn thing. Let's get this party turned up a gear, ladies. Who's up for truth or dare?
Dean gives them all a cheeky wink, and so the evening continued with laughter and joy. Dean is cozying up to one of the ladies. I'm going to see her boobies if I play my cards right, Dean thinks to himself. Meanwhile, Martin in the kitchen then calls Dean to tell him some news, which he's going to dread.
Dean, my love, can you come here a second?
Dean heads to the kitchen.
What is it, Martin, can't you see? I'm busy with my ladies. Sisters. Aren't you going to sort out the snacks?
Martin looks sheepishly at Dean.
Well, the thing is, I need to tell you, the co-op was out of tiger bread.
Dean looked Martin in the eye.
Say that again, Martin.
The co-op was out of stock of tiger bread.
You fucking what? You fucking poof? Are you serious?
I know, my love. However, they did have a sale on crumpets.
You had one fucking job, poof, and you come back with fucking crumpets?
But they're the fluffy kind. You do love fluffy crumpets, my love.
Oh, you fucking poof. You and your fucking crumpets. You at least got my whiskey, right?
Oh, no. I totally got flustered by my encounter with Nathan again. It put me out with sorts. Oops. I forgot that.
Dean looked furious. He started to clench his fist.
Martin, you little fucking poof. Nathan is no concern to me, nor should he be to you. He tries it on all the time. I feel so furious, I feel like I'm gonna have to beat you. You know I need tiger bread, and you didn't even get my fucking whiskey. What am I meant to drink now, your sparkling poof wine? Why didn't you stock up?
I know, Dean. I should have gotten your whiskey. I just got distracted with Nathan and forgot to pick up your whiskey. Please, Mum has been a bit needy lately. I'm sorry.
Dean just sees red. He then whacks Martin right on the nose.
Look, what you made me do, fuck.
The ladies all stood up in unison in the living room, overhearing the commotion. They decide to storm off. One of them, with her arms crossed, declared,
Dean, we are all leaving now. The vibe has totally died. You don't seem like the geezer you said you were. No chill. See ya.
Dean watched helplessly as they all stormed out. Dean thinks to himself, fuck, I was just about to see her boobies.
Fuck's sake, Martin, it's your fault, my ladies. Sisters are gone now, poof.
I'm sorry, my love. I'll give you some space and go see Mum.
Dean thinks to himself, oh, not fucking Barbara. She always makes Martin go shopping with her. He then ends up getting a load of fabulous poofter shit. Classic fucking Martin, right? Dean also can't stand Martin's mum. He thinks she's a right cunt, always nagging. Dean just looks at Martin and just nods, then says,
Yeah, that's fine, Martin. I'm going to go head out to the pub. I'll be out all night, so don't stay up.
Dean grabs his coat and heads out, heading straight to the pub, seeking solace in getting smashed. He also thinks maybe he can save this evening by seeing if there are any ladies are about. What chaos tiger bread and no whiskey can cause. Martin is now off to see his mother, and Dean is off for a cheeky sesh. Chapter 2. Pub antics and shopping spree. Dean, full of energy, power walks with a determination towards the Bystander, the local cosy pub. He has to get there before 5 p.m. This pub is not just a place to drink, it is a sanctuary, a stage, and sometimes a battleground. Enter Dean, a man on a mission for cheap pints. Dean bursts through the pub door, his coat flaring dramatically. The vintage clock above the bar reads 4:59 p.m.
Oi, prick, 4 pints now! And don't you water 'em down this time, you tight sod.
The patrons in the pub turn their heads toward Dean, some smirking, others shaking their heads. John, the landlord, doesn't even flinch, used to Dean's antics. John calmly starts pouring a pint.
Cutting it fine again, aren't you? That's £4, Dean. Plus, if I watered him down, you'd probably thank me. Save your liver some grief.
Dean slamming coins on the counter.
Yeah, just pour 'em, prick. My liver is fine. It's my wallet you're bloody killing. Better a quid each now than £4.50 each later. Who can afford that?
John smirks knowingly, sliding the first pint across the bar.
Exactly. That's why you only crawl out from under your rock between 4 to 5, eh?
Dean grinning and grabbing the first pint.
Ha, don't act like you're not happy to see me. I'm keeping this place in business.
Oh, absolutely. Without you and your happy hour loyalty, I'd have to sell me kidney to pay the bills.
Dean gulps down the first pint in one go, slamming the empty glass down. He immediately grabs the second pint, pausing only to glare at John.
Don't give me that shit. It's a public service you're offering, keeping the beer affordable for the working class.
John pouring another pint.
Affordable? It's a quid during happy hour, Dean. That's charity. At £4.50 after 5, it's called surviving.
The regulars nearby chuckle as Dean lines up his third pint. Pinson, one of Dean's old friends, was sitting in his wheelchair by the bar, turns to Dean. You'll be jumping in the back of Skips with Graham, searching for that skip wine if you miss happy hour one day, Dean.
Ha, Pinson, less cheek twat. Skip wine is Graham's thing. I'll still be here for a pint for a quid. Don't you worry about that. I'm a fucking legend.
Hear, hear, ha, to the one and only legend Dean. The pub erupts in laughter. Dean raises his glass in a mock toast before downing the third pint. Dean's love for a bargain is as legendary as his loud entrances, but for him it's not just about saving money, it's about sticking it to the fucking system. Or so he says. Dean gulps his fourth pint. He slams the empty glass on the counter and exhales triumphantly.
Congratulations, 4 pints in under 6 minutes. Truly a man of our times.
Damn right, prick, and not a penny wasted.
Dean turns to Pinson.
Pinson, get around in, will you?
Sure thing, mate. Dean grinning and leaning on the bar. The bustling pub full of life and chatter. Dean, now thoroughly pleased with himself, surveying the room like a king surveying his kingdom, seeing what ladies are about. Meanwhile, at a modest home, Martin, dressed in a stylish coat with a bright scarf, knocks on the door. He is holding a reusable shopping bag with glittery rainbow designs. The door opens, revealing Barbara, Martin's mother, a small but fierce older woman with sharp eyes and an air of authority.
Late again, always late. We go now, no time to waste.
Hi, Mum. Lovely to see you too.
Barbara ignoring him and grabbing her purse.
Why you wear that scarf, so sparkly? Look like Christmas tree.
Martin playfully adjusting his scarf.
Thank you, Mum. It's called fashion.
They head to the car. Barbara immediately commandeers the radio, flipping through stations.
All noise. Nothing good anymore. Why no music with feeling? Like Frank Sinatra. All this flamboyant noise, no good.
That's ABBA, Mum. They're classics.
Classics? Classics don't wear shiny jumpsuits.
They arrive at a large supermarket. Barbara grabs a trolley with precision, and they march inside. The aisles are bustling, but Barbara weaves through like a drill sergeant.
Martin, why are you still with Dean? That man is no good. Always bossing you around. Always so mean.
Martin grabbing a package of colourful cocktail umbrellas.
He's not that bad, Mum. You just don't know him like I do.
Barbara pointing a finger at him.
I know enough. He talks to you like servant. You deserve better. Someone who calls you darling. Not idiot poof.
He doesn't call me idiot. Not all the time, anyway, just poof.
Barbara shakes her head, muttering in Chinese as Martin tosses a sequined wine outfit into the trolley.
Wine outfit? Waste of money. Wine doesn't care what it wears.
Martin grabs a set of sparkling gold plates and matching cutlery with rainbow handles.
Ooh, look at these. Perfect for dinner parties.
Barbara snatching the cutlery.
Rainbow spoons? What kind of party is this? Circus?
Very funny, Mum. They're elegant.
Barbara huffs and grabs a carton of eggs.
Dean doesn't care about elegance. He cares about shouting and being rude. You need someone kind, not loud like gorilla.
Martin grinning, grabbing a pink faux fur cushion.
Maybe I like gorillas.
Barbara slamming a loaf of bread into the trolley.
Then I buy bananas for you. You will need them.
Martin laughs as he adds a glittery table runner and a pack of pastel-coloured paper straws to the cart. Barbara shakes her head, muttering,
So wasteful. You spend on all this, but yet you have no proper man. I find you a nice doctor, or maybe a lawyer. Someone with respect.
Mum, I don't need a lawyer, unless you're planning to sue.
Good idea. I call solicitor tomorrow.
Martin laughs, grabbing a pack of pink champagne glasses. Barbara continues muttering in Chinese, occasionally shaking her head as Martin adds more flamboyant items to the trolley. They head to the checkout where Barbara scrutinizes every item.
All this sparkle, but no vegetables. You can't live on glitter, Martin.
Martin holding up the cushion.
But it feeds my soul, Mum. My soul.
Barbara groans, paying for the groceries as Martin flashes a cheeky smile. The two walking out of the store, Barbara grumbling and Martin happily swinging his glittery shopping bag. As they both walk back toward the car, Martin spots a shop.
Oh, I need to pop in here quick, Mum.
Back at the pub. Dean spots a trio of women leaning against the bar, their laughter mixing with the clinking of glasses. With his trademark swagger, Dean sidles up, flashing his most devilish grin.
Evening, ladies. Now, which one of you's been naughty enough to deserve a pint from me?
The women giggle, and one of them, a brunette with a teasing glint in her eye.
Depends. What's a pint from you worth?
Worth more than gold, love, but tell you what, I'll throw in a chat with me for free. Bit of a package deal.
They laugh, and Dean's confidence skyrockets. He leans in closer, dropping his voice to a conspiratorial whisper.
Now, don't get me wrong, you lot are stunning, but I reckon you've never met a bloke like me. I'm like a fine wine. Gets better the more you sip.
And what makes you so special then?
Because, darling, I'm the full English breakfast of men. Sizzling, satisfying, and leaves you wanting a nap after.
The women erupt into laughter, one of them nearly spilling her drink. Dean basks in the attention, feeling untouchable. But just as he's about to unleash another cheeky line, his eyes drift downward, and then he sees it. Dean freezes, his face turning pale, pointing a trembling finger.
What the fuck is that thing doing here?
It's just a snail hunt.
Just a snail, you silly bitch. That thing's a menace, a slimy, evil little cunty bastards.
Dean trips over his own feet as he tries to move away. He staggers backward. As soon as Dean gets up, he dashes out of the pub. As he gets outside, he spots that there are more snails by the pavement.
Oh, what the fuck is this? Are they all on some sort of a fucking night out? Fuck this, I'm going home.
Dean runs back to the flat, out of breath and exhausted.
Fuck me. That was too close to call. Those evil little bastards. I'm just going to stay here and wait for Martin to come home. Who knows how many are out there waiting?
Chapter 3, The Therapist, What the Fuck is Twitch, and the Virus Strikes. Dean is slumped on the couch, clutching his chest like he's just been kicked in the bollocks by a drunken donkey. His eyes dart around the room, paranoid, as if he's just spotted a snail in his own fucking flat. The door creaks open, and in walks Martin, humming cheerfully, arms laden with shopping bags, oblivious to the storm brewing on the couch.
Oh, Dean, I didn't think you'd be home yet. Didn't you say you were going to the pub all night?
Dean doesn't respond. He's still breathing heavily, his face as pale as a sheet. He looks like he's just seen yet another fucking snail. Or worse, 2 snails getting it on. I mean, snail sex? That's something you didn't think you would hear.
Are you all right, my love? You look like you've just seen Mrs. Clawfang flashing her tits again in her trench coat and pink beret.
The mere thought of Mrs. Clawfang tits out would make anyone's face go pale and sick. Dean snaps his head toward Martin, his face twisting in anger.
All right? Fucking all right. I'm bloody not all right. Poof. Those evil cunty bastards are out. They're out. They've been lurking, planning, plotting.
Martin blinks, slowly setting the bags on the kitchen counter.
Who's out, my love? Random homeless people, or have you bumped into Nathan asking for weed money? Oh, don't say it's those feral cats from Mrs. Clawfang's again.
No, none of that, and not those fucking cats either. The bloody fucking snails, Poof. The evil, slimy sods. They're everywhere.
Martin pinches the bridge of his nose, his patience already wearing thin. He walks over, crouching in front of Dean like one might approach a frightened child. Or a rabid raccoon.
Dean, listen to me. They're just snails. Slimy, slow, harmless little snails. They eat leaves and mind their own business.
Harmless? Mind their business? You wouldn't say that if you'd seen what I've seen, Poof. One of them looked me straight in the eye today. It had intent. Evil intent.
Not this again.
Don't you fucking start, you sparkly Poof. And don't even think about calling that quack of yours again. We all know how that went down last time.
4 months earlier, at Dr. P. Goodard Therapist's office. The office was a small corner room with classic white walls and an odd photo frame of a cat with a word underneath saying, calm. Dean and Martin sit on a couch that looks like it was bought on sale at a charity shop. The therapist, a middle-aged man with round glasses and an infuriatingly serene smile, sits across from them, a notebook balanced on his knee.
What brings you both in today?
He's absolutely terrified of snails. I don't know what to do. Dean goes into meltdown if he sees one. He's convinced they're plotting something.
Dean, why don't you tell me what's going on? Why do snails bother you so much?
Dean glares at the therapist, like he's just suggested stopping happy hour at the Bystander.
Oh, sure. Let's talk about it. I'll tell you why, shall I? It's because those slimy bastards are evil, you prick. They're tiny little chaos machines. You might think they're harmless, but just wait until they start their uprising. They'll be everywhere, in your house, in your bed, sliding across your bloody limp cock.
Dean, do you think this could be linked to some sort of childhood trauma? Perhaps an early experience with a snail that scared you?
Dean's eyes narrow dangerously. He leans forward, his voice dropping to a growl.
What the fuck does my childhood have to do with this? No trauma but epic fucking times, you prick.
The therapist shifts uncomfortably but keeps his calm demeanor.
Dean, I think you might be overreacting.
Overreacting? Fucking overreacting? You'll be singing a different tune when those slimy cunting wankers are taking over the fucking world.
Now, Dean...
Before the therapist can finish, Dean jumps to his feet, fists clenched. Without warning, Dean punches the therapist square in the stomach. The therapist lets out a wheeze and collapses into his chair like a deflated balloon.
Come on, Poof, we're leaving. This guy's clearly on their side.
After storming out of Dr. Goodard's office, Dean drags Martin to the local boozer for a pint, because apparently that's where Dean goes to cool off. Dean is still fuming, muttering under his breath about snails plotting world domination. As they sit at an outdoor table, Dean's eyes dart to the park across the road, where a small patch of grass is dotted with snails glistening in the sun. His hand tightens on his pint glass like he's just spotted the enemy camp. Dean hisses to Martin.
Look over there, they're gathering together.
Martin, without looking up from his rainbow glitter latte.
It's a patch of grass, Dean. Snails live on grass, that's what they do.
Live on grass? Bollocks. That's a bloody strategy meeting. Look at them, Poof. They're grouped together. They're coordinating.
They're small little creatures with no brains, Dean. The only thing they're coordinating is who eats the next leaf.
Oh, sure. That's what they want you to think. You've been brainwashed by them.
Dean, still annoyed, sits with his pint while Martin sips his glitter latte. Martin then tries his best to change the subjects.
So, Dean, my love, you know my friend Bernie? Her son Dominic has started making money streaming on Twitch.
Dean frowns in confusion and also thinks, oh, that little job-shy prick.
Yeah, that job-shy prick. I know him. What this Twitch? What do you mean streaming? Like video chat, plumbing, cooking, actual work? What do you mean?
No, not like that. He plays video games and people watch him.
Dean spits out a sip of his pint in confusion and disbelief.
People pay to watch some lazy sod play fucking video games? Are you having me on, Poof? That's not a job. That's just being a twat with a controller.
It's a real thing, Dean. He's got followers, people send him money, and he's even got this Amazon wish list.
Dean sets his pint down hard.
Hold on. People pay this lad to sit on his arse and play some shit like Elden Necklace or whatever the fuck they call games these days, and then buy him stuff from his wish list? What, like trainers and air fryers? Isn't he on benefits?
Well, yeah, he is on benefits. That covers his rent and food. They do send him stuff separately, but his followers love him, and he's got this whole alpaca thing that's part of his branding. His user is Nerd Dom.
Dean, leaning in, now thoroughly outraged.
You're telling me this work-shy little prick sits playing games and claims benefits, and people send him shit that he begs for on a wish list. This can't be acceptable behavior. At least he doesn't have kids. No one could be proud of a father like that. Also the alpacas. What the fuck have alpacas got to do with anything? What, does he shag them or something? And as for that ridiculous name, what a fucking stupid username.
No, Dean, it's a gimmick. Like, he has a little alpaca plushie that he uses as his mascot. The name is him trying to relate to people.
Oh, bloody brilliant. So not only is he scamming people to fund his useless lifestyle, but he's also roping innocent animals into it. Bet the alpacas didn't sign up for this shit.
Dean downs his pint. Martin just ended up making Dean even more mad.
Come on, Martin, let's go home. I'm too pissed off with these snails, let alone this Twitch bullshit.
Back in the current day, Dean is still fuming, sat on the couch, pissed off that Martin doesn't take him seriously on this snail chaos. Meanwhile, Martin is in the kitchen unpacking bags and chatting away happily.
Well, you'll be pleased to know I found some tiger bread while I was out with Mum. Oh, and Mum sends her love too.
Dean thinks to himself, sure she does. That fucking cunt. I can't stand Martin's mum.
Well, at least there is some good news. Make me a sandwich, Martin.
Martin starts making a sandwich for Dean, his voice practically dripping with excitement as he looks at his unpacked shopping.
Oh, and I found the cutest dining set. Wait until you see it, Dean. Knives, forks and spoons with rainbow handles. They are just fabulous.
Dean just groans to himself. Oh, bloody hell, he's off again, banging on about his fabulous poofter shit. Martin returns to the living room holding a plate with Dean's sandwich. Dean eyes it suspiciously.
Why is there glitter on my bread?
Oh, it's from the Rainbow Bread store. They sprinkle edible glitter on everything. Isn't it just delightful?
Fuck me. Just give it here. I'm hungry.
Dean takes a bite, chewing thoughtfully as Martin sits next to him. They switch on the TV, settling in to watch the latest episode of Hardest Geezers. Suddenly, a news broadcast interrupts.
Breaking news. A new virus, COVID-19, has emerged. The virus is deadly. All citizens must stay indoors, unless a key worker.
Well, that's just fucking marvelous. First the snails, now this. You're a fucking key worker, aren't you, Poof?
Martin's face contorts into panic. He grabs Dean's arm dramatically.
Yeah, I am, but my love, Dean, you could die.
I'm more likely to choke on this bloody disco bread than a virus, you silly Poof.
They both sit in silence, staring at the TV as the glitter from Dean's sandwich twinkles under the light. Martin whispers to himself, feeling terrified.
Oh, my Dean. He could die.
Chapter 4. Lockdown Madness and Shop Woes. As soon as COVID-19 hit, Martin went into full-blown panic mode. Their flat became less homey and more like fucking Fort Knox.
Dean, listen to me. You step outside, you could die, my love, and I'm not burying my husband, all right?
He'd installed bars on the windows, reinforced the doors like a paranoid prepper, and duct-taped every vent like the apocalypse was already here.
Poof, for fuck's sake, I'm not a goddamn convict. I don't need this Alcatraz shit.
You'll thank me when this virus doesn't melt your lungs. Now stay inside, and don't even think about trying to unscrew the bars. I'll hear it.
I swear to God, Poof, if you try and keep me locked up, I'll go mental.
Martin ignored him and started to strap on what looked like tactical gear, an elite respirator, leather gloves and a riot shield he'd somehow acquired.
Right, I'm off to work. I'll bring back some tiger bread that shall cheer you up.
Oh, great, tiger bread. That'll make this hellhole so much better. Also, get me something fucking stronger than whiskey while you're at it. I'm bored out of my fucking mind here.
Martin just smiled at Dean and locked the door with a padlock so ridiculous it looked like it came off a bank vault. Meanwhile, at the co-op, Mark, the store's uptight manager, was already pacing at the entrance like an angry PE teacher.
Martin, 2 minutes fucking late. What the hell is this? Do you think this is some sort of fucking holiday camp? Tut tut.
Sorry, Mark. Got held up. I had to sort out my Dean. You know he could die. I'll clock in and get on with it.
Tut tut. I want all 15 cages of RDC done tonight. No fucking excuses. Harry and Luke are here, but let's be honest, they're useless bastards.
Martin sighed. This was going to be a long fucking night. Harry and Luke were already being useless. Luke stacking cans, one at a time and most of them upside down. Harry just muttering to himself and laughing, ticking off a list of how many membership cards he gets an hour. Poor Martin. The next day, Martin returned to work, half dead from exhaustion. Mark was there, arms crossed, like he'd just caught someone pissing in the fruit aisle.
Martin, I told you, 15 cages. You left one. Fucking one. Do you know how unacceptable that is? I'm so very fucking disappointed. Tut tut.
I'm sorry, Mark. I had a queue of customers out the door and had to check on Dean to make sure he was okay. As you know, my Dean could die.
Mark crossed his arms and tilted his head like a judgmental owl.
Excuses don't get cages out, Martin. Tut tut. Do better, or I'll reduce your hours and give them to someone who actually knows how to work. Harry, maybe, or Luke.
Martin raised an eyebrow.
Harry spends half his shift naming bananas and the other half trying to juggle them. Luke stacks cans like he's building a house of cards.
Well, they might still do a better job than you.
Mark snapped, his eye twitching like a dodgy Christmas light.
And if Andy gets on my ass about this?
Martin tuned out as Mark's usual tirade dissolved into background noise. But then, something strange happened. Mark's twitching eyes stopped blinking altogether, and the right side of his face suddenly sagged like a balloon losing air.
You all right, Mark?
Martin asked, trying not to laugh. It looked like Mark was halfway through transforming into a Picasso painting.
I'm
Mark slurred, pointing to his own face as if it were a faulty product on the shelf.
Jesus Christ.
Martin muttered, now genuinely worried. Mark staggered to a chair, his left side still trying to glare at Martin, while his right looked like it had given up on life entirely.
I think you've got Bell's palsy, mate. You need to sit down before you fall over. Or worse, fall into one of those cages you keep screaming about.
I'll call my wife.
He garbled, fumbling with his phone. After an awkwardly loud speakerphone call, Mark hung up, his good eyebrow twitching furiously.
She said she'll be an hour.
An hour? Where is she coming from?
She needs to get ready.
Of course she does. Nothing screams emergency like a full face of contour.
An agonizing hour later, Mark's wife arrived. She sashayed into the co-op like she was walking the red carpet, not picking up her half-paralyzed husband. Her hair was perfectly coiffed, her makeup flawless, and she was wearing a leopard print jumpsuit so tight it probably restricted her blood flow.
Mark, darling!
She called, her heels clicking loudly against the floor.
You poor thing, you look terrible. But don't worry, I'm here now.
Mark's one functioning eye rolled so hard it almost fell out of his head.
Sorry it took so long.
She continued, fluffing her hair.
You wouldn't believe how uneven my winged eyeliner was. I had to start over twice.
Mark groaned, which sounded more like a low-pitched gargle as she pulled him to his feet.
Let's get you to the hospital,
she said cheerfully, completely missing the death glare her husband was giving her.
I'm sure they'll fix your little face thing in no time. Thanks for keeping him alive.
Martin just looked stunned at her words. That night, Martin arrived home to find Dean on the sofa that he had turned into a makeshift boat. He was half naked, wearing a pirate hat and sunglasses. A nearly empty bottle of spiced rum dangled from his hand.
Oh, look who's back. Captain can't finish his fucking cages.
Dean crowed, sloshing rum onto the sofa boat.
What happened this time, sailor? Did Mark stick that tut-tut right up your arse?
Martin sighed, dropping his bag and collapsing into the armchair.
Dean, you're not going to believe this. Mark's face went wonky today, like full-on half-melted candle mode.
Dean sat up, his sunglasses sliding down his nose.
Wait, what? What do you mean wonky? Did he finally tut himself into oblivion?
Martin smirked.
Close enough. He was ranting about the cages. Again, when his face just gave up. One side went slack and he started talking like he'd just chugged a bottle of vodka.
Dean burst out laughing, nearly tipping the sofa boat.
Oh my God, did he blame you for it? Martin, you left one cage and now I've got Bell's fucking palsy. Tut-tut.
Martin chuckled.
No, but he did try to play it off like nothing was wrong. Fine, mate. He looked like a stroke victim auditioning for Pirates of the Caribbean.
Dean wheezed, clutching his stomach.
That's hilarious. Did someone call an ambulance? Or did they just let him wobble around like a broken muppet?
His wife came to get him.
Wait, the leopard print wife? The one who looks like she gets Botox in Aldi's car park?
That's the one. She took an hour to get there because she needed to do her makeup first. Mark's sitting there, half his face sliding off, and she's like, "Sorry, darling, but I couldn't possibly leave the house without my eyeliner on fleek."
Dean chuckled to himself.
This is gold. Please tell me she showed up looking like a fucking disco ball.
Martin nodded, suppressing a laugh.
Oh, she strutted in wearing leopard print so tight it looked spray-painted on. I swear she thought she was starring in some kind of medical drama.
Oh, Mark must have just had to sit there, one sad eye twitching, thinking, this is my life, this is what I married.
Pretty much. The best part was when she told the staff, thanks for keeping him alive. Like we'd been performing life-saving surgery in the bread aisle.
Dean fell off the sofa boat.
Oh, Martin, top comedy gold. Still, if you did your cages, we wouldn't have gotten this, so thanks, haha.
And here I was thinking my life was a difficult. At least I don't have a tutting face melter and a leopard print diva waiting for me at home, just a drunken sailor.
Dean raised his rum bottle in salute.
Our matey that be true. To Mark, may his cages be many and his Botox bills be higher. Anyway, Martin, I have been busy today. I've started a petition to get me out of here.
Dean declared, adjusting his pirate hat.
You know, it's a free Dean campaign, a noble cause for a man trapped in this Alcatraz you call a flat.
Martin groaned, rubbing his temples.
You've not trapped. It's to keep you safe. Dean, you could die otherwise.
Dean grinned, leaning back on the sofa boat like a king addressing his subjects.
Yeah, Martin. So I took action today. I made a Twitch account and started streaming.
Martin blinked.
Twitch streaming? You hate that bullshit, you said. What are you doing on there? It's not video games, is it?
Nah.
Waving the rum bottle dismissively.
Who's got time for that? I went live to tell the people my story. I showed them the bars on the windows, the duct tape on the vents, gave them the full tour of my prison life. Properly tugged on the heartstrings, you know. I even played sad violin music in the background.
Jesus Christ, Dean, then what?
Dean hesitated, his grin faltering for the first time.
Well, it was going great. I had 10 viewers at one point. Double digits, Martin, that's practically viral, but then there was a bit of an incident.
Martin crossed his arms, already bracing himself.
What did you do?
Dean coughed, clearly trying to stall.
All right, so here's the thing. I forgot I'd left the camera running when I got out of the shower. And let's just say the viewers got more of the Free Dean campaign than they bargained for.
Martin stared, his jaw dropping.
Dean, you got your cock out on Twitch?
By accident, poof.
Dean protested, holding up his hands defensively.
I was just toweling off, turned around, and bam, full frontal. One guy in the chat said, "This isn't OnlyFans, mate," and then bang, account banned.
Martin buried his face in his hands.
You absolute fool. How do you manage to turn everything into a disaster?
Dean shrugged, looking entirely unbothered.
I prefer to think of it as keeping life interesting. Anyway, I've already got a backup plan. Gonna make a new account under a different name. Free Dean 2.0. The world needs my story, Martin.
Martin groaned as Dean launched into another passionate rant about his campaign, complete with plans for merchandise, a theme song, and possibly a GoFundMe. They both stumbled into bed, Dean still rambling about his genius marketing strategy, while Martin lay there, staring at the ceiling, already dreading the next shit show at work. 2 months into lockdown, Dean's pacing had evolved into a theatrical performance. He stomped around the living room like a deranged Shakespearean actor, occasionally glaring at the walls as though they were complicit in his imprisonment.
Martin, you melodramatic knob, I'm going to lose my fucking mind. Just let me step outside for 5 minutes. 5. I'll inhale and exhale in the same spot like a statue, I swear.
Dean,
he said, in a tone reserved for explaining basic concepts to toddlers.
We've been through this. You go outside, you die. Simple as that.
Dean threw his hands in the air.
Die? Oh, brilliant. I'm in a Dickens novel now. Please, Mr. Martin, sir, might I step out for a crumb of fresh air before I perish from sheer boredom?
Martin stood, pulling on his protective gear with the resigned patience of a saint or a sadist. Gloves, mask, glasses, hat. By the time he was done, he looked like a post-apocalyptic beekeeper.
Stay inside. Stay alive.
Martin then deadbolted the door behind him. Dean stood frozen in place, staring at the locked door like it had just insulted his mother.
Stay inside. Stay alive.
He mimicked in a high-pitched, whiny voice.
What a load of bollocks. I'm not a fucking Tamagotchi fucking poof.
At the co-op, Martin shuffled in with the energy of a man walking to his own execution. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a sickly glow on the aisles of empty shelves and half-dead houseplants.
My Dean could die,
Martin muttered as he clocked in, his voice heavy with melodrama.
Martin, give it a rest. We've heard it all before. Dean's not a delicate little flower, is he? He's more like a cactus. Tough as nails, thrives in neglect.
Martin shot her a withering look.
You don't understand. He's vulnerable. One stray cough and he's a goner.
Martin, for fuck's sake, we know.
Lynn smirked.
Maybe get him one of those big hamster balls, yeah? Roll him around the house in it. Or better yet, fill it with gin. Keep him entertained and sanitized at the same time.
Before Martin could retort, Harry stumbled into the room looking like a man who had recently lost a fight with a bottle of cooking oil. His greasy hair clung to his forehead like a clingy X. Harry's hair is just so yucky, yuck. Seriously, get this guy to wash his hair. Oh, wait, I'm going, of course, again.
Martin?
Harry stammered, clutching something in his hands with all the pride of a toddler presenting a crayon drawing.
I got you a present.
Martin sighed.
What now, Harry?
Harry was always giving Martin random gifts that he picked up. Harry held up a battered circular object with mysterious symbols etched into its surface, almost like a pocket watch.
I found it at the charity shop,
Harry said, beaming.
Thought it might cheer you up.
Martin frowned.
What the hell is it?
It's a thingy, for the around stuff.
Lynn laughed so hard she nearly toppled over, clutching her stomach as tears streamed down her face.
Nice one, Harry.
Harry,
Martin said, pocketing the object.
Thanks. You've truly outdone yourself this time.
Harry shuffled away, likely to terrorize another corner of the store, leaving Martin to sigh deeply. At least Harry's idiocy was preferable to dealing with Tom and Simon, who were currently arguing over whether being pleasured by a genderless alien would make you gay. I mean, a alien that doesn't know genders. It's not male or female. So, if it did suck you, what an interesting question, Martin. Martin carried on with his shift. A worrying mess. That night, when Martin got home, he took the random thingy object out of his pocket, left it on the table by the plant pot. Chapter 5, Mischievous Pranks and the 80s Flashback. 2 more weeks of lockdown. Dean was done. Stir-crazy, bored and itching for some mischief, he decided to spice things up. That's when inspiration struck. Pranks. Harmless, well, mostly harmless pranks. It was time to mess with Martin, his unsuspecting poof. Late one night, while Martin was at work, Dean crept into the bathroom like a mischievous goblin. He grabbed Martin's toothpaste, emptied a bit, and, after a quick glance to make sure Martin was still out, added a warm, golden, personal touch. The sound of liquid hitting the tube made him stifle a giggle. He gave it a good shake to mix things up, screwed the cap back on, and wiped the tube clean. Standing back, Dean admired his handiwork, imagining Martin's morning routine. Squeeze, brush, sudden horror.
Ha ha ha, this shall be some classic banter. Brighten up this lockdown boredom.
The next morning, Dean was jolted awake by a string of muffled curses from the bathroom. He grinned. Showtime. Dean strolled into the bathroom, doing his best to look concerned.
Everything all right, Martin?
Martin spun around, his toothbrush mid-air, eyes wide with disbelief.
Is this piss? It tastes like, oh, it's piss. It's piss, isn't it?
His lips twitching as he tried not to throw up. Dean leaned against the doorframe, grinning like a cat who'd gotten the cream.
Ha ha, pissy teeth.
Martin felt queasy, the taste still in his mouth. Pure disgust on his face.
Oh, Dean, I was almost sick, you little bugger.
Dean wasn't done. His next plan. An elaborate culinary fake-out. After a quick trip to the fridge, he grabbed a fresh jar of peanut butter and swapped half of it for a suspiciously similar-looking stuff. Dean squatted over the jar. Wait a minute, what is he doing? Dean started to take a fucking shit in the jar. Oh, this is really happening? Okay, seriously, Dean just took a shit in a jar of peanut butter. This bloke is a fucking crazy geezer. Top marks for the prank. Dean then carefully smoothed it over. He made sure the top layer was pristine. That evening, as Martin made a midnight snack, Dean lurked nearby, trying to contain his laughter.
Want some toast, my love?
Oh, no, thanks, I'm good.
Martin slathered the peanut butter onto his toast, took a hearty bite, and froze mid-chew. Dean popped his head around the corner.
Everything all right, Martin?
Martin spat the bite into the sink, his face twisted in betrayal.
Dean, what the hell is this? Is that shit? It tastes like shit. Oh my God, it's shit.
Martin started to throw up all over the floor. Dean, however, leaned against the doorframe, clutching his stomach with laughter.
Ha ha ha, shitty teeth. Now clean that fucking mess up, poof.
Dean's final prank. His piece de resistance involved Martin's prized hair gel. Martin loved his hair slicked back just right. His vanity was Dean's perfect target. Dean replaced the gel with a generous mixture of a white creamy substance and a dash of green food colouring for an extra touch of gross. The next morning, Dean waited on the couch as Martin got ready for work. A few minutes later, he heard a scream from the bathroom. Dean! Dean bolted to the bathroom, struggling to keep a straight face. Martin stood in front of the mirror, his hair dripping with a slimy green mess.
What the hell is in my gel?
Dean shrugged innocently.
Maybe it's just a new formula?
Martin sniffed the air and recoiled.
Oh, you didn't. Let me guess. You're going to laugh and call me cummy hair?
Dean looked Martin dead in the eye.
Don't be so disgusting, you silly poof. I wouldn't jack off into your hair gel. You're just disgusting. It's mayonnaise.
Martin looked embarrassed and ashamed. He then groaned but couldn't help cracking a smile.
You're impossible.
Admit it, I'm the legend of pranks.
Oh, Dean, what you like? I got to clean my hair and get off to work. Just behave yourself tonight. No more pranks, please.
Dean just laughed. Then Martin, as per usual, deadlocked the front door as he went to work. Dean wandered around the flat, thinking to himself, what can I do now? Dean was fucking bored of being stuck in this flat. While Martin was at work, Dean decided to dig around in some old boxes in the cupboard. It was either that or drink himself silly. He opened up a dusty photo album and flicked through it absent-mindedly until he stopped at a picture that made him bark out a laugh. It was him, his older brother Baz, and his best mate Pinson from back in the day, 1983 to be exact. All three of them looked like rejects from an 80s boy band. Baz had a mullet that could scare off a wild boar, Pinson was missing a tooth, and Dean had the fashion sense of a blind man on acid.
Bloody hell, what a night,
Dean muttered, staring at the photo. He could almost smell the booze and kebab grease again as he was swept into the memory. It was a brisk Friday night in 1983. Dean, Baz and Pinson were strutting through town like they owned the place. half cut already and looking for trouble. They were on their way to the Nag's Head, their local dive where the beer was warm, the floors were sticky, and the fights were frequent. As they stumbled along, Dean's sharp eye caught a petite blonde lass with a killer figure and cracking jugs hopping into a bright red camper van. He elbowed Baz and smirked.
Oi, Baz, isn't that Chris Manning and the bald Welsh Chris's shaggin' wagon?
Baz squinted at the van like he was trying to solve a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, it is. Wait, hold on a sec. Dean, ain't that Lynn?
Dean freezes mid-chuckle.
Well, I'll be. That's Lynn, all right. Bloody hell, she does love camper vans. The little tart. She's going to be in a classic Chris sandwich tonight, ain't she?
Baz wheezed with laughter.
Aye, getting serviced like an old transit. She'll end up with her dirt box full of spuds by the end of it.
What a naughty minx. She'll end up down south of France. The lads howled as they carried on to the pub, still mocking Lynn's camper van fetish.
Right, let's get on it. Pint o'clock.
The trio stumbled into the Nag's Head. The pub was exactly as they remembered. Packed, smoky, and full of blokes who looked like they'd been brawling since breakfast. As they ordered their first round, Pinson proudly announced he'd won a bet earlier that week and was footing the bill.
Big spender, eh? All right, get us a pint of bitter then.
Dean said, already eyeing up a nearby dartboard. Damn right, no problem, Dean. Pinson returned, balancing 3 pints like he was auditioning for new faces. Unfortunately, his talent wasn't balance. His foot caught on a bar stool, and in one glorious slow-motion moment he sent all 3 pints flying, straight into the laps of a group of skinheads at the next table. One of them, a burly bloke with a face like a bulldog chewing a wasp, stood up, lager dripping off him.
Oi, you clumsy tosser!
Sorry, mate, Pinson stammered, but it was too late. The bulldog swung for Pinson and chaos erupted. Chairs flew, glasses shattered, and Dean found himself using a pool cue as a weapon while Baz shouted,
Fucking have it, you skinhead pricks!
By the time the melee was over, Pinson was under a table with 2 very literal broken legs, courtesy of the bulldog's steel-capped boots. Outside, Dean and Baz dragged Pinson out like he was a sack of spuds. Pinson was clutching his legs, groaning.
For Christ's sake, Pinson, you're a bloody liability.
Baz said, lighting a cigarette. I'll never play footy again, Pinson wailed. I was going to go pro... Dean snorted.
Come off it, mate. You were shite. You'd have struggled to make the pub team.
Yes, they argued. Baz pointed down the road.
Oh, look, there's an ambulance. Let's chuck him in and piss off.
They flagged down the ambulance, left Pinson in the care of the paramedics, and headed to the Crown, a quieter pub where they figured they might actually get to finish a drink without a riot. At the Crown, Dean was nursing a pint when he spotted a bloke in the corner who looked like he'd wandered in from another dimension. The man was wearing a bright purple blazer, a sparkly scarf, and had hair so big it looked like he'd stolen it off a lion.
What the fuck is that?
Dean muttered, nudging Baz.
Dunno, looks like a faggot on his way to a panto.
Baz replied, grinning. As if on cue, the man sauntered over to their table, his hips swaying like he was on a catwalk. He leaned down, locked eyes with Dean, and purred.
Hello, handsome. Can you buy me a drink?
Dean nearly spat out his beer.
Piss off, mate!
The man didn't budge.
Oh, don't be shy.
He cooed, trailing a finger down Dean's arm.
You're the cutest thing I've seen all night. I'm Martin.
Dean's face turned crimson, Baz nudging his younger brother.
Can't be having this happening. He's making us look queer. Dean, sort it out. Right, that's it, you faggot.
He shoved Martin back, but Martin only grinned wider.
Oh, you're feisty. I like that,
Martin said, licking his lips. Dean lost it. He swung a punch that landed square on Martin's jaw, sending him sprawling. As he stood over him, adrenaline pumping, Dean suddenly had a bizarre flash-forward of hitting Martin somewhere less traditional. In da bum-bum.
What the fucking fuck was that?
Dean shouted, shaking the thought out of his head. By the time Baz stepped in to break it up, Dean was missing a shoe, Martin's blazer was ripped to shreds, and the landlord was threatening to call the coppers. As Martin disappeared into the night, limping in his torn purple blazer, Dean sat down on the curb, rubbing his knuckles. Baz leaned against a lamppost, lighting a cigarette, barely able to contain his laughter.
Bloody hell, Dean! You just beat the shit out of a faggot in the middle of the pub. Dad's gonna put that story on the mantelpiece.
Dean spat on the ground, his jaw clenched.
Yeah, and he'll probably make me reenact it at Christmas. Go on, son. Show your mum how you lamped the queer.
Baz let out a wheezy laugh.
Might even get you a trophy. Best homophobic punch, 1983.
Dean glared.
Shut it, Baz.
But Baz wasn't done. He crouched down next to Dean, grinning like a lunatic.
Admit it, though, Dino. He had a twinkle in his eye for you. Bet you felt all warm inside, like you'd finally found your soulmate. Got yourself a big old Woody over it.
Dean shot him a look that could kill.
Say another word and I'll bury you right here.
Baz smirked, puffing on his cigarette.
All right. But you didn't have to go that hard on him. Poor bastard's probably walking home right now, crying into his sequins and dreaming about the man who stole his heart and his dignity.
Dean stood up, dusting himself off.
The bloke was asking for it.
Baz snorted.
Yeah, I'm sure he asked to get his arse handed to him by a closet case with anger issues.
Dean's eyes narrowed.
I'm not in the fucking bloody closet.
Baz clapped a hand on his shoulder, grinning.
Course not. You're just renting a room in there, right? You'll come out when you've redecorated.
Dean shrugged him off, muttering.
You're a prick, you know that?
Baz doubled over with laughter, wiping a tear from his eye.
All right. But seriously, mate, what's the plan now? Are you going to call him? Or are we just going to pretend you didn't go full Romeo and Juliet with fists?
Dean turned to him, deadpan.
The plan is to get absolutely pissed and forget this night ever happened. And if you breathe a word of this to anyone, I'll make sure you end up sharing a room with Pinson in hospital.
Baz howled with laughter, stumbling as they started walking again.
Fine. But don't come crying to me when you wake up dreaming about his sparkly little scarf.
Dean muttered under his breath as they headed to the next pub.
What a fucking disaster.
As Dean put the photo down, he said,
Fuck me. The first time I met Martin, I beat the shit out of him. Should I apologize? Nah, bugger that. The poof deserved it.
Chapter 6. Scratch cards, skip wine and the thunderclap. As Dean continued to look through the pictures in the photo album, Martin's shift at the co-op was a symphony of chaos. But today felt like a goddamn opera of doom. He had a splitting headache. Customers were acting like rabid animals, and as usual, his work wife Jo wasn't helping.
Oi, Joe, where are you?
Martin called, panic rising. He'd just realized that 50 scratch cards were missing from Gotta Scratch, and it wasn't like they were going to grow legs and walk out. Well, not unless Jo had given them a boost. He stomped into the back office, where he found her hunched over the staff table. Jo looked up with bloodshot eyes and a twitch that could rival a faulty toaster. The table was piled with discarded scratch cards, their silvery dust spread out like a miniature cocaine operation.
Joe, what are you doing?
Jo grinned maniacally.
It's scratch card dust, Martin. The key to the jackpot. I'm this close to cracking the bloody system.
She held up a card she'd half scratched, her fingernail chipped to hell.
Joe, for Christ's sake, you've gone full lunatic. What are we supposed to do about the missing cards?
Relax, I'll sort it.
Jo said, her voice dripping with delusional confidence. Martin pointed at the stack of scratched cards.
This looks like a bloody crime scene. Mark will be up on my arse for not finishing the RDC cages. And now this. You're killing me.
Jo leaned in conspiratorially.
Martin, listen. I'll win big and we'll split it. 50-50.
You've got 3 kids, Joe. Don't you think they'd appreciate not seeing their mum on Watchdog?
4 kids, actually.
Jo corrected.
You've only got 3!
3 or 4, what's the difference? They only want.
Martin groaned.
You're an absolute cow. Pay for those cards now, or I'm going to have to report it to Mark.
Jo rolled her eyes.
Relax, Martin, I'll sort it. I've got a plan.
What plan?
Jo winked.
A side hustle.
What side hustle?
Don't worry, Martin.
Jo disappeared into the restroom, where she pulled out her phone. With the efficiency of someone who had definitely done this before, she started snapping saucy photos. Her uniform shirt was unbuttoned just enough to reveal a leopard print bra, her cleavage glistening with strategically placed scratch card dust. She moved to the bathroom mirror for a selfie, puckering her lips in what she thought was a seductive pout, but looked more like she'd swallowed a lemon. She lifted her skirt slightly, revealing fishnet tights and a suspiciously large ladder in them. For the piece de resistance, she posed with a scratch card between her teeth like some sort of deranged gambler's pin-up girl. She captioned it.
Feeling lucky? Subscribe for more exclusive content.
She sent out a mass text to her clients. Dean was one of them. Dean was sitting at home sipping some whiskey when his phone went off. The message came through. He opened it and immediately let out a cackle so loud it scared the neighbour's cat. The photo of Jo, covered in scratch card dust and holding a card like a golden ticket, popped up on his screen. Dean couldn't resist replying.
Jo, darling, seeing as I'm married to Martin, do I get some sort of loyalty discount? Maybe a buy one, get one free deal? Oh, and do you accept co-op points?
Jo replied almost instantly.
Exclusive content doesn't come cheap, love, but I'll give you a cheeky discount for being a regular.
Dean muttered to himself.
She's filthier than the two Chris's old shaggin' wagon.
Damn. That Jo is a naughty girl, pure sex, scratch and rock and roll. Jo returned to Martin shortly after, looking pretty filthy, we know why. Wink, wink.
It's sorted, Martin. Now let me get on with it. Gonna hit big soon.
Martin just shook his head. The shift then continues like normal, yet those two lazy bastards didn't touch another cage of RDC. Mark is going to be pissed. Martin said goodbye to Jo as they finished work. He then locked up the co-op, humming to himself as rain began to drizzle. Thunder rumbled ominously, and he quickened his pace toward the skip out back. A loud clatter froze him in his tracks.
What the bloody hell is that?
Clutching his keys like a makeshift knife, he crept toward the noise. Suddenly, Graham's head popped up from the skip, crowned with bin bags and what appeared to be a wig made of soggy noodles. Graham holding up a half-empty bottle of cloudy liquid. Evening, mate. Skip wine, vintage, medicinal.
Graham, you absolute maniac.
Martin pinching the bridge of his nose.
Graham, what the hell are you doing in there?
Graham waved the bottle like a trophy. Vagina medicine? Mate, gotta keep the old ticker going.
Do you mean angina, you drunken git?
That's the one.
Personal time?
He waggled his eyebrows suggestively, losing his balance and toppling back into the skip with a loud clang. He then got back up. You know, edging. Keeps the thrill alive. Found a filthy old magazine in here earlier. Vintage stuff. Black and white. Real classy. Martin recoiled.
Jesus Christ, Graham, you're in a skip. Have some dignity.
Dignity? What's that when you got 50s tits and skip wine? Living the dream, mate. Martin shook his head.
You're going to wake up with tetanus and regrets. Just don't fall asleep in there. The bin lorry's coming tomorrow, and I don't fancy identifying your remains.
Graham cheerfully said goodnight from inside the skip. Nighty-night. When Martin got home, dripping wet and thoroughly done with the day, he kicked off his shoes and called out,
I'm home, love. I hope you haven't been up to any more of your stupid pranks.
Dean was at the dining room table, still flipping through the photo album.
Oh, Martin, you're going to love this.
Dean smirking like the cat that ate the canary. Martin wandered over, eyeing the album warily.
What's that you've got there?
Dean slid a photo across the table.
Some classic 80s gold.
Martin squinted at the picture. It showed a teenage Martin sprawled on the ground, looking thoroughly defeated, with a leather-jacketed Dean standing over him, fists clenched.
You've got to be kidding me.
First time we met, I knocked you flat on your ass and beat the shit out of you.
And I've been obsessed with you ever since. Must have been all the touching, hands everywhere.
You absolute poof. You planned this, didn't you?
Don't be a silly sausage, you silly goose.
Martin brushing past Dean into the kitchen.
I'll make us some dinner. Bet you're hungry.
Dean stayed at the table, frowning at a strange metallic object sitting next to a plant pot. He picked it up and wandered into the kitchen.
Boy, Martin.
Dean holding up the object.
What the fuck is this thing?
Martin glanced over from the stove.
Oh, that. Harry gave it to me. Some charity shop tat he thought I'd like.
Dean turned it over in his hands.
Looks like a knockoff fidget spinner.
Before he could finish talking, a deafening boom rattled the house as lightning struck outside. The device in Dean's hand began sparking like a Poundland sparkler after the thunderclap.
Martin, why is this fucking thing sparking?
The device buzzed violently. Martin ran over.
Put it down now, Dean.
I can't. It stuck to me like a Jehovah's Witness at the door.
But it was too late. A blinding flash lit up the room, and the world spun like a drunken merry-go-round. When Martin and Dean finally stopped screaming, they realized they were no longer in their kitchen. They were in the middle of a bustling market square. The air smelled of fresh bread and horse manure. A wooden sign above them read, Wootton Annual Farmers Market, August 1939. Dean stared at the sign, then at Martin.
Oh, for Christ's fucking sake, we're in the fucking past somehow, but at least I'm no longer locked in that prison flat.
Martin scratched his head.
It was for your safety, my love. At least it's not medieval times. I don't fancy dying of dysentery.
Dean jabbed a finger at him.
Listen up, you poof. No prancing about, no sass, and definitely no embarrassing me. We need to blend in. It's a different time.
What do you mean, blend in?
Martin huffed.
I'm perfectly.
Just act fucking normal.
Dean snapped.
Now I'm off to nick some cash. Don't get arrested.
Before Martin could respond, Dean vanished into the crowd, already eyeing unsuspecting wallets. Martin wandered aimlessly, trying to act normal. He stopped at a vegetable stall run by a rosy-cheeked woman meticulously arranging cucumbers.
Good morning,
Martin said with a polite smile.
Lovely morning, isn't it? Care for a cucumber? They're fresh and rather large.
Martin picked one up, admiring its size. Without thinking,
Oh, this is nice, but I've had bigger.
the woman froze, her smile dropping.
What do you mean by had bigger?
She repeated icily.
Oh, well, this isn't massive.
Martin innocently holding the cucumber aloft.
I've seen much bigger. You'd be surprised what I can handle.
The woman gasped, clutching her chest.
Oh, officer, I need an officer.
Meanwhile, Dean had just relieved a gentleman of his wallet, saying to himself,
Take from the rich git, then give to a geezer in need.
That's when he heard the commotion. He turned to see Martin surrounded by a small crowd, waving a cucumber like a lunatic while an officer marched toward him.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
The officer grabbed Martin by the arm.
Hello, what's going on here?
This man is making some awfully strange remarks. They sound dreadfully queer.
You're coming with me. We don't tolerate that type of behavior. Wait, I was just complimenting her produce.
Dean burst through the crowd, shoving the officer into a stack of crates.
Leg it, you poof.
The two bolted through the market, Dean dragging Martin along.
Right, first things first, shut your fucking mouth. Forever, ideally, I said act normal.
I was acting normal. She was talking about cucumbers, and I...
You don't tell someone in 1939 you've had bigger cucumbers in a sexual way, you fucking idiot. Poof.
They ducked into an alley, panting. Dean pulled out the circular device.
We need a way out of this mess, back to our time, which means we need a bloody genius.
A genius. Oh, Dean, you flatter me.
I said genius, not idiot savant. I'm talking about Einstein.
Einstein? What, the Einstein?
No, Martin. Einstein from Wooten's Weekly Farmers Market. Yes, the Einstein.
Oh, brilliant. And where do you think he is? Knocking back cider with the locals?
No, you absolute poof. He's German, which means Germany is a bloody good place to start, doesn't it? So we will go to the airport in Croydon.
That's actually not the worst idea you've ever had.
Oh, thank you, Martin. Your approval means so much.
You're welcome, darling. So how are we getting to Croydon, then? Walking?
Dean spots a parked car.
Nope, driving.
Dean strides over to a rusted Ford Anglia. He pulls out a penknife and crouches by the ignition. Martin watching, amused.
You've got a real talent for crime, haven't you?
Talent? It's called survival. Now shut up and keep watch.
Martin doesn't stay quiet.
Dean, where the hell did you learn to hotwire a car?
Dean, without looking up.
Back in the day, me and Pinston used to nick cars and sell them for scrap at Baz's garage. Now stop gawping and get in.
The car sputters to life. Dean rummages through the glove compartment and pulls out two slightly tattered suits.
Here, put this on. We need to blend in.
Martin holding up the suit.
Oh, fabulous. Nothing screams subtle like two overdressed blokes in a 1930s shitbox.
Just shut up and get dressed.
Dean drives, chain-smoking, as Martin adjusts his tie in the cracked rearview mirror.
So, just to recap, the plan is to fly to Germany because Einstein happens to be German. That's the whole plan?
Yep, simple, effective, and doesn't involve you talking.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Strategic Genius. What if he's not in Germany?
Then we look somewhere else. But Germany's a damn sight better than Wooten, isn't it? Unless you think Einstein's hiding behind a stall selling turnips.
Fair point.
Dean spots a grimy pub by the side of the road and suddenly pulls over. Martin looking confused.
What are you doing?
Dean getting out of the car.
I need food and a pint. You've been talking non-stop, and I need something to stop me murdering you.
Oh, Dean, you'd miss me if I were gone.
Dean under his breath.
Not even a little. Right now, you bloody poof.
Dean sits at a rickety table with a pint and a plate of unidentifiable meat. Martin sips a pint, eyeing a swing band setting up in the corner.
Oh, look, a band. Dean, I could perform.
Dean glancing up, deadpan.
No.
It'd be like in the films. A big dramatic number to lift up our spirits for this mission we are on.
Dean leaning forward.
Martin, if you so much as hum, I will personally throw you out the window.
Martin looking mocked hurt.
You're no fun, Dean, gritting his teeth.
Fun? You think this is a holiday? We're stuck in 1939 on our way to try and find Einstein like he's a lost puppy and you want to sing?
Well, when you put it like that, yes.
Martin stands and strolls to the band. Dean groans, burying his face in his hands as the band starts up and Martin belts out a swing number.
Dean, 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 how do you like me? Dean, 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 how do you like me? You're always smiling, you my love. I'm your tall and sexy Martin. I'll take care of you all the time. Get you your tiger bread and fill your tum. Don't ever need to worry, Martin. Don't ever need to worry, Martin is here for you, Dean. We both will be unstoppable. Dean, 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 do you want me?
Oh, for fuck's sake! So this concludes part 1. Tune in for part 2 to see what happens next. Well, that's if he gets around to fucking writing it, lazy bastard. Join us to continue the adventures by hitting subscribe. If you enjoyed our exploration, give us a like. And share your thoughts in the comments below.